I've always been in love with herringbone stitch, to the extent that at one point in my life I was actually going to write a book that was all herringbone stitch projects. And one of the things that you see most often with herringbone, or ndebele is how it is the other more traditional name for it, usually the way you see it started is with a ladder stitch start. And then you start working the herringbone V shapes off of that. Well, that's great, and it doesn't really cause a problem if you're doing something flat where the two ends, you know, it's going to be a clasp area and you just don't really notice it. Where it can come into to be a problem is that if you're going to go make a bangle or something and you want to join the two ends together, when you've done that ladder stitch start, those little beads that you use for the ladder stitch are sitting straight like little soldiers, whereas all the herringbone beads are making little V shapes. They kind of sit at a cattywampus angle. So when you go to join them together, you end up with a 1 or 2 bead strip in the join area with the ladder stitch, and the beads just look different. And some people that really bothers them, some people it doesn't bother them at all. Some people just embellish over it. So, you know, there's certainly ways to get around that. But there is actually a way to start herringbone stitch without having that ladder stitch. You immediately get into the herringbone V shapes. The reason you don't see it very often is because it's a little more complicated. Now, I knew I wanted to do this video, and I wanted to show you guys how to start it out where you get the herringbone effect right off the bat. And so I did some research, and I found 3 different ways that you can create this. One of them, you end up with a half column on either side. That's the most traditional way that I personally have seen it. Virginia Blaylock is the one who brought that particular variation to us, but you end up with these half herringbones on the edge. Not that that's a bad thing, but just sometimes, at least often for me, I don't want that, especially if I'm trying to create something tubular and bring it back together. I can't work with those little half herringbone stitches on the outside edges. The second way that I found was in Melinda Barta's Mastering the Herringbone Stitch book, and that way you end up with 2 sets of square stitched beads on either end of the flat strip that you make. Well, everything in between has the herringbone pattern to it, but you still have these 2 pieces on the edges that aren't in that herringbone shape. And so it still is a little bit problematic for me. And then I found instructions that Cassie Shaw had brought to the world's attention. It's on her website. And she actually credits, she found it first documented in a 2010 Bead and Button article. And then there was someplace else that it was documented. Anyway, I found this to be the easiest, most intuitive, and most herringbone-ish way to do this, and it makes a perfect end where you can join 2 ends together. Okay, so that's a whole lot of words, I know. So let's get down to the beads. Let's come up close here over here. I wanted to show you this. This is the traditional ladder stitch start right here. I did it in a different color just to kind of really point it out. But you can see where these beads are sitting like little soldiers, where these beads are kind of sitting off to the sides. And this is going to be really obvious right here if I join these 2 ends. As a matter of fact, you know what? I do have a sample I want to show you so that you can see that. And this is a herringbone piece I did with the triangles. And if I go along here, I can look for the join and I can find it because look, right here, if you're going along, let me get a little pointer here. You're looking, you've got the nice V shape, Look at these 2 sets right here. No V at all. Right there is where you can see where I joined the 2 and it had a ladder stitch start. So again, it's something that if your average person is not going to notice, but we're detailed people as bead weavers. And so if you're looking at it, that is going to drive you nuts every single time. So let's show you how to avoid that. This piece is one that I started using this technique, and look, you can't tell which end I started at. This looks like I'm ready to do more herringbone stitches right here. Here's my live edge with herringbone stitches here. So when I go to join this, it is going to be absolutely seamless. You will never be able to tell which was which. And you will certainly not see a ladder stitch section. This can be done with flat or with in the round. And I'm going to show you what you do. Even when you do it in the round, it was easiest for me to start it flat and then join it. So this is what you're going to need. You're going to need 2 stopper beads. You're going to start out with one on your thread, and then you're going to need a second one later. And you want to pick up however many beads you want for your first round. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and alternate colors. And the reason is it just makes it a little easier to see, like so. Also, because pulling out your initial round, whether you're doing this flat or in the round, pulling out this initial row is going to be super easy to do. So you can actually use different colored beads like this to help you see it. And then when you get far enough on, you can just pull that out and nobody will know that you started out with these kind of crazy colors. So right here is where I'm going to pick up that other stopper bead. And I'm going to bring it down on the other side of these beads, like so. Okay, this is temporary, so we'll get rid of it later. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to turn around, and we're going to pass back through that very first bead next to this new stopper bead. And we're going to make this be a herringbone point right there. So I'll pick up 2 of the color that I want this to be, and then I'm passing through that very next bead that's sitting right there, but also its neighbor. So it's like an increase. You just forced 2 beads in between these 2 that were sitting next to each other, and then went through 2. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Pick up 2, pass right through the very next bead and its neighbor. So this is all going to look kind of crazy at first, so you'll just have to kind of trust me that Jill hasn't lost her mind, that this will work. Okay, like so. And then we're going to do it again. Pick up 2, pass through the next 2. Okay. And then pick up 2 and pass through the last one. I want to make sure that you don't stitch your stopper bead there in. Okay, so this is all looking kind of crazy right now. But on this next round, or this next row, it's all going to come together beautifully. So at this point, the easiest way to get up to the next row is I'm just going to let my thread show right here on the outside edge. If you wanted to, you can use whatever kind of herringbone turnaround you like on the side, but you could add a little accent bead right here. That's something I see a lot of in flat herringbone, but right this second I'm just going to pop on up there. So I'm going to pick up 2 beads. Look, here's like a normal herringbone stitch. I go down the next one. And at this point, I'm going to ignore all of those crazy color beads. I am only working with these guys. So I went down. Now I'm going to go pass up through the next hematite. Pull that nice and tight. Pick up my 2. Go down through the next one. Okay. Even though this guy is trying to sit under here, we're going to force him to sit up and pass through the first one. Pick up 2, pass down through the next one, and then up through this last pair, through the first bead of the last pair here, like so. Pick up 2, go down. Now look, it looks like total normal herringbone, right? Again, I'll just do a turnaround here. like so. And then after you have done a couple of rows of this, it's super easy just to pull this last row out. So let me do another row and we'll go ahead and then pull out that first row and so you can see what it looks like. I have been getting some questions from people lately who feel like their herringbone stitch has been loose. So their question is, why are there tubes? Basically what's going on is I did the slinky triangle necklace where we used triangle beads to create a herringbone tube, and it just looks so gorgeous. And a lot of people are making that, and they feel like their herringbone is very loose in that project. And the reason that their herringbone is loose in most cases is because they're trying to cheat on the herringbone stitch. And by cheat on the herringbone stitch, what I mean is, and let me show you here. So when you're taking your two beads and you go down, people know that they're going to want to go up this next one. So they think, well, why should they go down and pull their thread through and then go up and pull their thread through? Well, I'm going to show you why. So if you cheat and just go, okay, I'm going down this one and now up this one, just even look at your needle there. It's going straight across. Well, that's what your thread is going to do. When you pull that like that, now I'm pulling pretty hard, and these are size 8 beads, so this is actually, that pulled in pretty nicely. But basically what will happen is you're going to lose a lot of that herringbone V shape by cheating like that. So if you are a purist and you really want your piece nice and tight and a lot of the herringbone V shape, what you want to do is go ahead and take the stitch down, pull, tighten downward, because that's which way that thread is going. And now you're going to go through this bead up as a whole separate stitch and tighten upward. And I know it seems silly, but that makes a huge difference in what your herringbone is going to look like. So one of the things that people are always telling me is that my beadwork looks really pristine. And I said, you know what? I don't do it fast. I do it precisely. And things like that, little tips like that, it takes a little bit of extra time to do that extra pulling, but look how gorgeous and in sync those beads are. Okay, so let's say at this point we want to get rid of this craziness down here. All we have to do is take off this stopper bead, and then we're going to pull and take this stopper bead out. And as we do that, voila, the first stitch will come out automatically, and then you can just pull these pairs out from the bottom like this. And what will happen is this last bead right down here will try to come off, and what you're just going to do is when you go to end off this tail thread, you'll just stitch it in. So when you go to end off the tail thread, you're just going to come right across to this next column and attach it. So if you're not ready to do that right now, what you can do is go ahead and take that tail thread, oops, and put your stopper bead on to hold that one bead in there. So anyway, now when you look at this, look, you've got the separations and the herringbone V's down here at the bottom as well as up here at the top. And now you don't have that nasty old ladder stitch in your way and showing people how you started it. This is going to really confuse them because they're going to be like, oh my God, that looks so hard. And you're going to be like, yes, it is. So that is how you do it with flat. When we come back, I want to show you how you do it in the round. It's very similar, but there's a couple of little things. All right, so let's figure out how we do this in the round. So say you want to do a tubular herringbone piece, but yet you still want the non-ladder stitch start. You're going to start it out the exact same way that we started with the flat. And let me bring you down to the beads here and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I already started this piece out. So in this case, instead of using the alternating colors, I used all pink here for my base row. So I picked up 6 pink because I want my tube that I'm going to make here to be 3 stitches around, which means that I'm going to need 6 beads in that to start. And I added my extra little stop bead here and came back through that first bead, added a double of the green, went through 2, added a double of the green, went through 2, added my third double of the green, went through 1. And that's where I am right now. This is where we're going to join it into a tubular shape. So all we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 ends here, pieces, and we're going to fold this like a taco. And I did have to do a little bit of maneuvering. I mean, right now it's sitting beautifully, but originally, you know, this was wanting to sit down here and that kind of thing. So I forced him to sit the way I wanted him to. And then I'm going to pinch this like a taco and bring those 2 ends together where the 2 stopper beads are. Let's make sure, let's see, that's my tail. And let me get that out of the way. And here's my working thread. Okay, there we go. And so now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go from one side to the other. So I'm coming out of this bead down here. I'm going to pass up through this bead over here. Actually through the top, through both of the beads. This would basically be like a step up, but what we're doing is we're just joining the 2 together. And so now we're ready to start beading our next row because we're at one side of a pair of doubles here. So I will pick up 2 beads. I'm going to say that I want my tube to be green. I'm going to pass through the second bead of the double. You're going to notice that this particular one has got me beading in the different direction that I'm used to beading. I'll show you how to fix that here in a second. This first round I'm just going to go in the counterclockwise manner just to get this set up, and then I can fix it and make myself go in the clockwise direction. So I added 2 here, and then I know that this is the next green is my next stitch, so I have to go up the green, and even though it's kind of sitting off here, if I push it up, that'll kind of help you see where up means, like so. Pick up 2, down 1, and then you're looking for the next green over, and you're going up the green, pick up 2, go down 1. This is going to be super duper loosey-goosey right this second, but it will get better in just a second. So at this point, here's my step up because that was my 3rd stitch of that row. And here's my step up. Instead of going up 1, I need to go up both green. Like so. Okay, so let's say that there's just absolutely no way that you want to go in this direction at all. What you can do is go down 2 beads of the next column. You want to be in one of the columns with a pair, and go down 2 beads. Now you're going to pass up through 1 in the first column, and then up through 1 over here. And so you did a little zigzag. You went down, over, up, and then over, and then up. And what that does is it hides all the thread. It will slightly make these beads a little bit less herringbone V-shape, but as long as you don't pull really tight, you're going to be fine. And now I'm in position where I can go my usual clockwise right-handed direction. So now here I am on this side of the pair. I'm picking up 2, going through the next, and then up, picking up 2, down 1, and up 1, picking up 2, down 1, and because this is my last stitch of that row, that's where my step up is, up 2. Just like you did with the flat, once you've established a couple more rows, you can go ahead and pull out the stopper beads and pull that first row of the hot pink out. and no one will ever know it was there. I just think it's a little easier to start this out with 2 colors. It's easier for you to see exactly what's going on, at least the first couple times you do it. After that, you might not need it. You can just start out with a single color the whole way through, and then you won't have to worry about pulling anything out. But the first couple times you try it, I would suggest using 2 colors, especially because it's so easy to pull out at the end. So I think this will make your life much easier, and it'll give you a cool trick to show off at your next bead club meeting, right? It's all about the tricks. I hope you enjoy this. I actually learned this because myself, this is a technique that I did not know myself. I learned it because of people asking questions in my group on Facebook, and it's called Jill Wiseman's Beaders. I think we had to change the name of it, but if you just look for a group that has Jill Wiseman in it, that's going to be our group. And I am in the group every single day, and I'm always looking at the questions that people have and what projects they're working on, and I'm always trying to do exactly what it is you guys want to do. So if you want to join in on the fun, come join our group. Happy beading!